This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Fear drives everything. Fear of not making it, fear of missing out, fear that your neighbor may have figured it out and will get ahead of you. Fear, fear, fear. Today I want to break apart performance, because performance is that flagpole in the ground that we can all look to if we're objective. Plenty of us are not objective. Consider two very, very successful investors or traders, however you might like to refer to them. I prefer trader. Some people prefer investor. Traders, though, however, have that plan of, I will enter here, I will exit here. Investors typically just sound smart, and I'll buy here and I'll hold on forever, which is where much of the world is today. So I highly recommend, at the outset, kind of a side note, examine why you might want to call yourself a trader versus an investor. But the two big names that I want you to consider, Warren Buffett, the superstar of all superstars, so well known, books by the dozens. But then I want you to also consider Bill Dunn and Dunn Capital. Bill Dunn started Dunn Capital. He's now chairman emeritus of Dunn. Marty Bergen currently runs Dunn Capital. And I want you to consider Dunn Capital, along with Warren Buffett, for their track records. Because no matter what is going on today in the all-time high equity markets of the United States of America, things will change. Surprises will happen. And as objective, learned individuals, we all want to study the past to see how people that came before us handled it all. What did they do? What was their system? What was their approach? And has it worked for the long time periods over many different cycles? None of this day trading bullshit. I mean, you guys know you can go out there right now and you can find a zillion people with hundreds of thousands of followers each on Twitter who will be there every day to tell you what they think about every tick of every market. And if you believe that, it might be time for some serious reprogramming. And that reprogramming starts with something simple. The track records of a Warren Buffett, the track record of a Dunn Capital. Find those track records now. Buffett's pretty easy. Dunn's pretty easy. You can find Dunn track records across my books. Buffett's track records are freely available. Look at the month by month. Look at the year by year. Both of these track records are going to extend over 40 years. They're not straight line ups. They both take 50% drawdowns. Hold on now. Are you telling me that these two very successful traders actually have been willing to take a reduction of 50% in their trading account for long-term success? Yeah, they have. That probably sounds incomprehensible to the average millennial brought up on the last 8 years of a bull market. It doesn't make any sense. Just like it did not make any sense to someone in early 2000. Just like it did not make sense to a lot of people in the fall of 2008, before October hit. Is that some kind of bearish, I think the world is going to end? No, I have no clue, and nor do you. But what we do have are track records of pros that go back 40 years that give us insights into how it works across these many cycles. Now, most people are going to have an idea about Warren Buffett's strategy. They know what value investing is. And value investing, of course, works. It absolutely works. But you need steely discipline. And you need to be honest with yourself about the drawdowns. As Buffett has said, if you're in the market and you can't afford to lose 50% in the market, you should not be there. That statement alone from one of the richest men alive should cause anyone who has never heard it, who happens to be in the market, to pause, to stop, and figure out what the hell he means. Because if you don't know what he means, I'll guarantee you that you're going to take, at some point in time, a much bigger drawdown, a much steeper loss than 50%. On the flip side of Warren Buffett is Dunn Capital, a trend-following firm. One of the most stark track records in the history of professional trend following, because it's continuous. It doesn't stop. It goes back to the early 1970s, and it's very consistent in style and application. It too, like Warren Buffett's track record, has its share of 50% drawdowns. But just like Buffett, Dunn recovers from those drawdowns. They know they have to take the risk to get the reward. If you're out there right now and you're thinking, I can always make this go up in a straight line. I can take the 1% a month. Or for those in really high-level fantasy land, I can make 10% a month or 20% a month every month. Like somehow or another they can control the market flow to get the percentage they want on demand. Where does that idea even originate? What's the logic behind it? To think that you can command the market to give you a certain percentage each month is insanity. 100% insanity. It does not work like that. That is also why these track records of a Dunn, of a Buffett, are so critical. They are giving the historical record of what happens when you take unpredictable markets and unpredictable people and throw them in the soup together. You get chaos. But inside that chaos, and value investing and trend following investing both show this. Inside that chaos, there is inefficiency. And inefficiency means opportunity. Opportunity to find the pattern that can work consistently to bring above average profit. Now, when I talk about these types of issues, I often get slings and arrows because I am going straight at the image, the self-image that so many people have. Because when people approach investing, they approach trading, often they find their little thing. Now, maybe they find their little thing March of 2009. They pretend the rest of the world did not exist before March of 2009. And they start trading. They have some little technique. Now, this technique might not be grounded in anything other than a bull market, but they believe in it. And they don't want outside views. Outside views are not just an opportunity for learning. An outside view, a better strategy, a strategy grounded in logic, a strategy grounded in human behavior. These things aren't just good ideas that that person can learn from. These are personal affronts. This is a damage to the ego. See, for these people that have their little plan that's maybe grounded in nothing other than a bull market, They can't afford to hear something contrary. To hear something contrary is to damage themselves. This is all Dr. Phil protect thyself stuff. I mean, look, when a person is presented with facts that contradicts that person's self-image, that person is going to say things that sound 100% reasonable to them, but to us, to the rest of the world, it's going to sound crazy town. And that's what cognitive dissonance is all about. Cognitive dissonance is when you are confronted with a truth that contradicts your self-image. If your self-image is that guy who's in the chat forum, who's on Facebook, who's on Twitter, on some blog, if you're that guy who thinks that each day you've got a pattern, a technique, a tick, a movement, a something that everyone else has to listen to because you alone have the secret sauce, well, there's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. And that's what I'm very good about. I'm very good at that. I'm very good at inducing cognitive dissonance. I'm very good at causing people that have these self-image problems to implode. I'm fantastic at it, honestly. I've practiced at it very hard. Now, the funny thing is, these very same people think I'm the guy that's trying to protect something. They think I'm the trend-following worshiper. I'm the guy that only drinks this trend-following soup, and I can't see the rest of the world. Worship, worship, worship. Covel's a fanatic. I challenge you, please, pick up the newest edition of Trend Following, all 700 pages, and point out the parts where you think I'm a fanatic. Point out the parts where the content is fanatical. If you're objective. Now, of course, if you're objective, we know that the vast majority of the population are not rational. They're not objective. So when you put out facts and objectivity, as I have done, for example, in this newest edition of Trend Following, I will get my share of slings and arrows and shotgun blast to my head. That's the way it goes. For example, here's a great one that I spotted recently. This book is a lot of trend-following worship. Are you curious as to why all other systems, especially buy and hold, are lousy? This book spends hundreds of pages trying to convince you of that. Examples after example of why trend following is the one true faith and all others are false idols. Kudos to the author for doing his homework. He has so much direct and indirect of presumably all the leaders in this space. He provides transcripts of first-hand interviews, examples of their fund's return history, and a persuasive tone that will motivate many to believe it's the TF way of the highway. That guy is in full-blown cognitive dissonance. He has a way, something in his life that he believes is different than what I present in the Trend Following book. He has a way, he has a technique, a strategy, something that's very, very, very different than Trend Following. He doesn't have a counter to Trend Following. I mean, if you don't have a counter to Trend Following, all you're left with is ad hominem of the author. That's me. So if you can't counter the print, if you can't counter the strategy, if you can't counter the logic, and you are having a meltdown internally, make fun of people. Go make fun of them. But here's the funny thing that a guy like that doesn't exactly see. Oh, sure, he can take pot shots at the author. Who gives a shit, right? Take pot shots at me. But you're taking pot shots with that paragraph? You're taking pot shots at Bill Dunn, David Harding, Ken Tropin, Keith Campbell. Legends that go back farther, like Rich Dennis, John W. Henry. You're not just hitting Mike Covel. You're basically saying all of these guys out there that have made billions of dollars are fucking nuts. They're losers. But this critic is actually showing the rest of the world with that highly critical paragraph of me and my work. What's he really showing? He's showing that he's a fan. He's showing that he likes it. He doesn't have a counter. He doesn't have another direction. All he has is kind of this sophomoric critique kind of stuff. And to me, I find this useful. I find this instructive, not because I need to defend myself. My God, I've taken more shots over the last 20 years. I'm used to it. That's the way it goes. If you are going to induce people into a state of cognitive dissonance, you must expect that they are going to try to kill you. Perhaps even literally one day, I might get a nut that shows up and says, I must kill you. You have told me and taught me something that I don't want to know because it goes against my ego, and my ego is so damn strong. And Covel, I must kill you. Who knows, right? People are batshit crazy. And that example that I just read, there's a guy who perhaps has some intelligence, but he still can't walk across the bridge and accept the alternative, accept the counter. He's literally defending the efficient market hypothesis. He's literally defending buy and hold and just saying, I'm some kind of an idiot hero worshiper. That's his argument. 700 pages against that. But it doesn't end there. Consider this thought. I don't know who this character was. I checked out these books from the library, and this guy babbles on and on about trend following is the secret to success, attacks every other investing, trading philosophy. He's a fan too. He absolutely loves my work, but he's in cognitive dissonance. He can't admit to himself what's going on. He has to defend the self. He has to defend what he thinks he knows. Because if somebody walks into the room and says, hey, dipshit, the world is not flat, some of these people go nuts. They lose their marbles. Now think back. Millennia ago, plenty of people probably really lost it when they were confronted with the idea that the world is not flat. Now, somebody might make an argument today in the tech scheme of things that the world is flat, and I might actually agree with them in that context. But physically, the physics of it all, the nature of reality, the world is not flat. And I'm sure that caused a lot of people to frankly die. They could not handle the idea that their closest held beliefs were proven wrong. Now, what's great about this type of criticism and learning from it is it allows you to see that whether you're Buffett or whether you're Dunn, having adaptability is mission critical to the markets. The ability to adjust to whatever makes you the money, honey, is got to be your prime focus. Buffett or Dunn cannot tell you where their profits will come from in any given year. Now, of course, somebody like Buffett has insurance business, so there is a certain consistency to that. But Buffett also takes, obviously, great positions in individual names. Some of those names might go up one year, some might go down. But he can't predict it. On the trend following side of things, Dunn cannot predict it. The firm does not know at the start of any given year where their profits may come from. How could you know? This is the foundation of what excites me about markets. This is what excites me about good strategy. This is what I've put in 700 pages in the newest edition of Trend Following. And this is what causes some people to get so mad that they just want to call names. They want to scream this, scream that. And you want to shake them and you say, hey, hold on, man. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to give you a better plan. I'm trying to give you a better understanding of how the world works. And it doesn't work the way that you think it works. It just doesn't. So even if you are stuck in your cognitive dissonance, even if you're stuck in a place where confirmation bias is killing you, Give your kids the book. Give your kids the insight. Give your family and friends the insight. You can stay the bitter crank hiding out in the basement of your mom's house, probably. But help other people to get past it. We should all collectively as a community be looking to push forward the best ideas. Our egos should be in check. Yes, somebody can make the criticism, and perhaps it's fair that I'm a trend-following homer. So what? Who is? It's not exactly a widely held belief. Not exactly widely held because the vast majority of people out there, those listening right now, are in passive mutual funds, passive ETFs, based on U.S. stock indices, and you are long, and that is it. And if you're long stock indices right now and you have no other plan except to trust, may I ask you, what's the strategy when you have a minus 50%? Hold on. What if you get a minus 50% when you're 75 years of age and it doesn't go back up like it did in March of 2009? Then what's the strategy? I could tell you what the strategy is then. It's called panic. Panic to try and find something that will work. What happens when you get a lot of people panicking? Who knows, but it's usually not very good. This is the point of a conversation like this. Three-dimensionally, think about the markets, human behavior, how it all ties together. What are the strategies out there that can excel? Now, a ton of people like to think that there are strategies by the bushel just hanging from trees, and you can just pick a strategy. There's literally dozens of strategies you can pick off the trees. There's trend following, there's buy and hold, then there's what, dozens more strategies? No, there's not. And that gets back to the beginning of this conversation. The proof in the form of performance track records of professionals that have come before us, that shows the light. So if you think you've got some special sauce strategy out there, be honest with yourself. What's the track record? How far does it go back? Does it really consistently pull profit? Or have you just done it for a week or two? Or perhaps a year? Or perhaps 2 years during one of the greatest bull markets of all time? If you're not asking yourself these questions, and you're pretending that you have a certain strategy that no one else has, and it's the super sauce special, come on, man, you're fooling yourself. And even if you get past the people that are just fanatical critics, because I've induced cognitive dissonance, there are those folks out there that get half of it right and then don't see the other half. Here's a great example. A recent comment that I caught. A trend following system might have a good risk management system in place for a bull market or a bear market, but it sure as hell isn't going to do you any good in a black swan event, which is going to price gap on you by definition, unless you had the good fortune to be on the right side of the trade in the first place. 100% bullshit. This guy has no clue what he's talking about. Zero, none, nada. One of the fundamentals of a strategy like trend following is that it does exceptionally well in black swan events. 1973 to 74, the 87 stock crash, the dot-com implosion, October of 2008, all events where black swans swam in, and when the profits were counted after those events, trend following excelled. So even though the comment from this individual shows him to perhaps have some understanding, he too has his cognitive dissonance because he can't accept an understanding of what trend following even is. He's blocked it out. How has he done that? Real simple. He's missed the most basic precept of trend following. You can't be a trend following trader on one market alone. It doesn't work. That's not how it is. I just mentioned at the beginning of a year, Dunn or Buffett, they don't know which markets will show them the profit. If you don't know, how in the hell can you be saying, like this guy says, it won't do you any good in a black swan event, which is going to price gap on you by definition, unless you had the good fortune to be on the right side of the trade in the first place? He's talking about one market. If you're talking about trend following coherently, if you're trying to critique trend following, if you're trying to critique Covel and his crazy ass podcast, at least get your facts right. At least know what the hell you're talking about. And if you're talking about one market alone, you're not talking about trend following. You know what you're talking about? Buy and hold the S&P index, man. That's what you're talking about. And last but not least, a phrase that I've heard that I really like, the lone penguin. The lone penguin doesn't have any counter to any facts. The lone penguin doesn't have any counter to any logic. The lone penguin simply has the emotional, Covel is a scam, don't listen. I can tell you right now, I would love to have hundreds of thousands of people that would come out and say, Covel is a scam, don't listen. Covel is a scam, don't listen, is a tell. It's a tell as to how someone really thinks. And they are deathly afraid. They agree with what I say, but inside their mind is like two boxers punching each other in the head. Imagine this poor guy that's out there that's only got that. Covel is a scam, or he could say anybody's a scam. He could pick any name and say any name is a scam. No objective counter, no objective facts, just an emotional, it's a scam. Think about what's going on inside that man's head. This is where Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, comes into place. This is where Charles Faulkner's work comes into place. This is where the Tom Basso 4-hour podcast on my show comes into place. I've been very careful over all of these years to lay a foundation that's almost impenetrable. Not because I'm right. I've just been a curious guy. I've looked for all of the connective tissue and I've laid it out there. Some might say, where's the negative? You just worship trend following. What are you talking about? I put track records in my books that show minus 50% drawdowns. Some people surely have to see that as a negative. It's not a negative, of course. What it is transparent. And that's the secret to any success in life. Whether it's trading success, entrepreneurial success, writing a book, making an album, I don't care. Be transparent with everyone out there. Be transparent with yourself. Some of my greatest lessons in the last 20 years have come from critics. People that have meltdowns in public over my work. I feel fortunate to put work out there that causes people to implode. I feel fortunate to put work out that can cause people with embedded beliefs to literally die inside their mind. Now, I don't want anybody to physically die, but we're all going to die on that point. But on the inside, the psych side, I thoroughly enjoy going out with a message backed by data and some of the brightest people on the planet, those people that have given their insights from my books and those people that continue to come on to this podcast. We are all so damn fortunate to be in the petri dish, the grand experiment, to keep learning, to keep figuring it out. And if I ever cease to have critics, I might as well retire. What's the point? If I don't have the crazies coming after me, it's all over. I don't want to be mainstream. What's mainstream? That's no fun. You want to lead the charge on the work that causes the most amount of people to reassess the direction they've gone in their life. That's my goal. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.